One of our last official presentations will be by Betty Wilanek, who is a member of the SOS Steering Committee. It's going to talk about pilot programs and taxes.
And you'll be happy to note that I timed my presentation.
You say how long?
Also, I'm an educator, and I know that the mind can secure what the rear can endure. So, you've seen this picture of Hawaii and how derelict turbines are rusting on some of the most valuable property in the United States. And they're just 14,000, some of the 14,000 that exist. They don't come down. So, right from the wind industry's toolbox, here's this quote. In order to be financially competitive, most wind projects need to take advantage of federal and where available state tax incentives. Because the incentives can represent 1/2 to 2/3 of the total revenue stream over the first 10 years of operation. 1/2 to 2/3 comes from your taxes. Congress enacted federal energy policy in 1992, originally for both renewable and non-renewable resources. They've extended that provision 6 times and allowed it to expire 6 times. And this has resulted in a boom and bust cycle of solar and wind development. When it expires, the building for these renewable sources decreases about 76 to 92%. And here you see it in blue, green, and white, black and white. And notice right here, oh, there's a pointer. This is 2009. Just want to make note of that. Up to this point, how many turbines have been built and what happened after that. Originally, there was a $4,000 maximum per turbine. But the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act removed that maximum credit. That was 2009. So remember what happened? Zoom. There are 3 options: the production tax credit, modified accelerated cost recovery system, and investment tax credits. Yawn. I can see, this is all very complicated information. And I got involved with this not because I'm an expert on this, but because my brother got a lease for our family farm. And over a 6-month period going through this lease, I originally was in favor of green energy. And I learned because I did the research. And the more I learned, the less I liked it. And I'm still learning. They have these tax break options so they don't have to pay taxes. The production tax credit provides 2.3 cents per kilowatt hour incentive for the first 10 years, and it's adjusted for inflation. The modified accelerated cost recovery system is an accelerated depreciation system, and they can depreciate these turbines on a 5-year schedule. And in the past, they've had a 50% bonus depreciation for the first year. That has not been renewed, but I'm going to get to that in just a minute. They also have an investment tax credit, and it generally allows a single tax credit against the project's tax basis equal to 30%. So they can either take one of those 3 options. But back in 2009, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act also gave them a cash grant option. So they can get a cash grant from the federal government for 1/3 of the proposed cost right up front. Your tax dollars at work. So what's happened? The most recent legislation expired in 2013. They extended it for 1 year. They extended it in December of 2014 for the year 2014. So if you remember that graph, 2014 was down. And then they failed to pass it in 2015. So right now, we don't have this tax credit in place. I'm sad to report that on Friday, July 17th, the Senate Finance Committee passed a draft tax package to renew those tax credits. That bill is scheduled for markup today. So we don't know what's in it, and we won't, and they've put it in with all of the other tax credits. So like mortgage interest tax credits, it's all in there. So chances are it's going to pass. Let's talk about local property taxes, because that's one of the things that Apex and its proponents will tell you about. Well, it will reduce your local property taxes. So we know we pay school taxes and we pay county taxes. So from our tax bill, the county taxes consist of a portion that goes to the county, a portion that goes to the town, a portion for fire, the fire department, refuse, both a county fee and a town fee, and water, both a county and a town. And I don't live in the village, so I don't know where the village falls into this, but I'm sure there's a village portion. The town portion of your county tax bill, from ours, was about 10%. So, of your whole county taxes, only about 10% for us was about the town. I've heard other people say 5, might be a little higher, but in that relatively small range. So if you look at these other taxes, let's look at Wyoming County that has 3 wind projects. Fiscal year 2003, tax levy increased 5%, 2004, 8.89%, 2005, 6%, 2006, 5.4%, 2007, 7.76%, 2008, 8.18%, 2009, 11.04%, 2010, 4.28%, 2011, 2.86%, 2012, 3.66%, 2013, 5%, last year, 4.13%, and this year their taxes increased 9.68%.
So much for those taxes.
So much for those tax breaks. However, these companies also won't be paying property taxes themselves. They will be involved in something called a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes. Originally, pilots were created for tax-exempt not-for-profits like universities, so that they could reimburse localities for services that they use, like fire department and police. But today, pilots are being used to attract business, and they're used instead of property taxes. They pay less than what the property taxes were, and if you really research it, it's about a quarter. Who determines what the pilot is? The counties or towns or cities' industrial development agencies, we will have 2 that will be involved, Niagara County and Orleans County IDA. The IDA's purpose is to attract business and create jobs, and we haven't even talked about jobs, about how many jobs won't be created. The IDA's funding comes from the pilots. They don't have another funding stream. They're not an entity that can tax. And if the business is taxed, instead of getting a pilot, they get no money. So their incentive is to create a pilot. That is the sole source of their funding. Right, Mr. Hoffman? And this lovely brochure that we got in the mail just Monday from Apex, it claims that there's a $1.6 million pilot that will be benefiting our communities. Did y'all get that? If not, you will. It's interesting because both towns and both town supervisors have stated there's no agreement in place. So where this $1.6 million comes from, I don't know. So, at present, that $1.6 million, which sounds like a lot of money, will be divided between two counties. And by the way, the IDA decides who gets what. They can consult the town and consult the school district, but they're the ones who decide how much of that money they keep. The IDA keeps it, not the county, the IDA keeps it. So they decided they get the lion's share of whatever the pilot is. So right now it's divided between two counties, two towns, and two school districts. But Apex reported at the last Yates Town Board meeting, I was there, I heard it, that they're going to be going up to 5 miles beyond their original proposed site. So 5 miles beyond, up to Route 104, or maybe beyond. So does that mean the town of Carlton, Gasport, Newfane, Medina? So how many towns will that be, and how many school districts? How much will that $1.6 million pot be divided up? Also, the pilots in the school districts, will it benefit the school district? The school district has no influence on the pilot agreement. They can have some input, but they don't control it. And the New York State School Board's report that under the state's tax cap formula, pilot payments must be subtracted from the district's tax cap calculation. So if your school budget is $2 million and you think you're going to get $100,000 from the pilot and you'll have $2,100,000 for running your school, no. It has to be subtracted. So your budget is $2 million, period. And it's causing all kinds of problems. So who benefits? The owners of the wind turbine factory. It is not a farm. I'm not calling it a farm, it's a factory. The two IDAs, the wind turbine manufacturers, the vast majority of which are companies from overseas, and the one company that is here, General Electric, uses materials built in China. The leaseholders, you've heard about the contracts. And you hear that and you think, why would someone sign a lease? Well, I know of at least one individual who signed a lease after not talking to a lawyer, signed the original lease, did not do any negotiation, after having a paralegal look at it. Does it benefit the environment? You heard Mike. Does it benefit the public because we're going to get such great electricity generation out of it? And this is something we haven't talked about yet, but you get optimum electricity produced when the wind blows between exactly 30 miles an hour and 55 miles an hour. Below 30, well, between 8 and 30, it's operating at a lower efficiency. Up to 8 miles an hour, it takes electricity from the grids to get the turbine spinning, and there's all sorts of things it takes electricity from the grid for. And above 55, they have to stop it so the turbine doesn't blow itself up and burn. In fact, GE reported to NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, that these turbines have an effective capacity, operating capacity of only 10%. And a study in Ontario found the same thing, 10%. That's why they won't guarantee to the farmers how much electricity is going to be produced. This is not about green energy. It's about greed. And what happens is, because of the depreciation schedules, companies like Apex are known, and they even have it on their website. Most often, they sell these soon after they're built or even before they finish building them, because they get that 30% upfront. They get the depreciation. They sell it to another company. The value goes back to 100%. They depreciate it for 5 years. They sell it to another company. Valuation goes up to 100%. They depreciate it for 5 years. They sell it to another company. And each time they change the name of the project, so you can't even research other projects and find out what their history is, because every time they change the name, it's a new project. What a scam. The sad thing is, I still believe in green energy, and there are alternatives. We have horizontal wind turbines that have a bigger silhouette and do less damage to birds and bats, but we haven't put the money in. There are even smaller ones like this that are actually 60% more efficient, that look like a tree in a park and can be put in an urban environment, or even look like artwork in an urban environment, that can be placed on top of skyscrapers in areas in a city where they actually need the power. We need to be smart about this and not give away our future and our present in order for somebody else to benefit from a corrupt tax system.